For the third time in history, women are never men in the workforce as the stay-at-home boyfriend becomes an economic trend. That's not good. That's not good for society. It's not good for men, it's not good for women. Then again, here we are. You probably know a woman supporting an unemployed man. Maybe you've been that woman. What used to be an embarrassing secret has quickly become a macroeconomic data point, and now the Federal Reserve has the receipts. As of early 2026, women held more payroll jobs than men in the US. This has happened twice before. Briefly during the Great Recession, and again just before COVID. And both times it reversed. Laura Ulrich, or Ulrich, I guess it would be more correct, a former regional economist at the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, who authored a March analysis for Indeed's Hiring Lab, says this time is structurally different. It definitely doesn't. To me, some of the change has been driven by a recessionary period. I mean, it's not like the economy is good anyway, but I guess. Which is what typically drives it, she told Fortune. This has to be more of a long-term decline that has led to a more of a permanent shift going forward. Or at least semi-permanent. Do you guys remember when they were complaining for almost a decade? Oh, but what about the gender pay gap? Oh, the wage gap as they called it. It was actually men getting into higher paying jobs than women. Well, I guess we got to the desired future when the strong independent women just get to earn more money. Wow, who cares? It's just more money. You were not that positive when it was quote-unquote affecting women. But of course, if they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. What is the gender gap in labor force participation? In the early 90s, men held nearly 7 million more jobs than women. That gap gradually shrunk over the last 3 decades and is now gone. It's actually on the opposite side, I guess. The trend continued over the last year, Ulrich said, pointing to the labor force participation rate data from the Federal Reserve. Over the last 12 months, jobs held by men fell by a net 142,000, while women gained 298,000. Of the 1.2 million jobs added between February 2024 and February 2026, 2/3 went to women. Oh, brother. Oh, brother. I cannot say for sure this is happening in the US. I can only say that it's more than probably happening in the US. But this is just, as usual, the results of modern society. You have beaten men into the ground, while rewarding women just for being woman. Once again, we have to remind people, in many locations, and I bet still happening in the US, despite what the president might tell you, you will get gigs from the government just as you hire quote-unquote minorities. Those being, I don't know, women, blacks, who knows. All of these strange individuals. So much for meritocracy, huh? The gender gap in labor force participation rate has also narrowed. The rate has fallen nearly 20 points since tracking began in 1948, from 86.7% to 67.2%. Do not make 6-7 jokes here. I swear to God, I'm gonna get you, and you're gonna bite the dust. The female rate jumped from 32% to 57.2% in that span. And you think the economy is better now? No it isn't. No it isn't. But it's fine because of women. Who wrote this? Catherina Gioino. That's an Italian sounding name. You would expect this woman to be Italian American. I would expect you to be actually born in America and know English as your first language. Why are men exiting the workforce more ESL than me? It's this is what happens. This is what happens when you hire the women. See what I mean? This further narrative gets complicated and more interesting. Both male and female participation rates are lower than they were in 2000, but men are falling off at a rate towards women's decline. Right before COVID, the male labor force participation rate was 69.2%. It's now 67.2%, a 2 points drop. The female rate dropped just 0.6 points over the same period. It's fewer men entering, Ulrich said. Younger men today are less likely to be working than their fathers were at the same age. You know why? Because you cannot get into a job. Ah, it's an entry-level job. Why do you need 5 years of experience? It's the same as the insane posts you see on social media about dating. I'm not asking really for too much. Less than 1% of all American males. Yeah, I'm not asking too much. No, I'm just asking for the apex of society. But it's fine. No, it isn't. And even if you get into a job, they pay you pretty much nothing. And if you are a man, God forbid you're a white male, you're not scaling. We've read articles about those already. Oh, but I've been here working as a journalist for so long, and they keep promoting everybody else. Even people have been here just for months. Oh, geez, they happen to be women, they happen to be black, they happen to be gay. Do you think that has to do something with what's going on? I don't know, man. I don't know. Ever heard of DEI? It's not as dead as you would think. They're just shutting the hell up. So, who's supporting them? Has been more of a transition where parents are supporting their adult children for longer, she said. There is a shout that more young adult men live with their parents than women. The wealth transfer from older generations to younger generations is part of that story. I think you mean the lack of wealth transfer. Have you seen the boomers? Yeah, not leaving anything for the kids. Why not? What? Ah, doesn't that little kids? If it was a different kid, okay, cool. They are your kids. What are you doing? That happens in the US. I don't think it happens here, really. Not as much. And then there are the partners. Almost everybody you talk to will have a story about supporting an employed man, Ulrich said. And what's changed isn't the dynamic itself, but the fact that it no longer carries the stigma it once did. It's not that it doesn't carry the stigma it once did. It carries the stigma nonetheless, but you're using it as a weapon. Because you're still trying to beat down men. Because you don't like them for whatever reason. The stay-at-home boyfriend, once a punchline, is now a statistically significant labor market phenomenon, which is actually bad. Not because I'm here just hating the women's. No, it's because women have kids. Since women have kids, it would be better for the women to be the stay-at-home part of the equation, because you're biologically wired for that. It's way better for the mother to take care of the kids, because you have, how to say this, biological implements to do so, rather than the father. I just think it makes sense. We also can come in here with arguments similar to those of biological impulses. You have the career woman. She decides to have a kid, and suddenly she doesn't want to be a career woman anymore. She just wants to be wife at home, make baby, and be a stay-at-home mother. Which I think it's fair, but yeah, the current metagame doesn't allow for such a respect, I'm afraid. In a landmark paper published in the Journal of Political Economy, first circulated through the National Bureau of Economic Research, found that roughly 70% of the hours young men are working are being spent on video games and recreational computer use. I mean, I guess, makes sense, it's just like that, right? The economist calculated that improvements in game technology since 2004 alone can explain nearly half the increase in young men's leisure hours. Okay, if it's just leisure, who cares? We're not talking about work. I try to blame video games, but it's not because of video games. I think that's part of the story, the basement story, Ulrich said, in reference to a trope of young men playing video games in their parents' basement. The opioid epidemic compounded it, hitting non-college educated men especially hard. Non-college educated men especially hard. You can just call them low class, it's fine. And critically, men, compared to women, largely don't qualify for government assistance programs like SNAP or TANF without a disability. Then when they exit the workforce, the financial burden falls on whoever's closest to them. Oh jeez, I wonder, do you think maybe men are disadvantaged in society nowadays? But you cannot say that. You cannot say that, of course the government is gonna protect the women. Yeah, you agree with me? The government protects the women, but not the men. Aren't we on the same page here? Who knows? Who knows anymore? The jobs that are growing and the jobs that aren't tell you almost everything. Healthcare and social assistance, which are 78.9% female, added 1.8 million jobs between July 2023 and July 2025, accounting for more than half of all US job growth during that period. Most of this, middle management. I've seen the numbers. It's not useful. You don't have more nurses, you don't have more surgeons, you don't have more doctors. You have an exponential growth in middle management. That is not useful. Not in a hospital, at least. But most human sectors like manufacturing, tech, financial activities, and media have been stagnant or contracting. Well, some of these jobs have been thrown in a little bit of turmoil thanks to new technology, which of course is going to happen. But then again, if you have to compete with literally all of the planet just because you know a little bit about tech, that's also not fair. One driver for this is women already have the training for the jobs that exist. As of 2023, 87% of nursing bachelor's students were women. In speech-language pathology, a six-figure profession, 96.4% of master's students are female. Medical schools have been majority female since 2019. This is hilarious. This is absolutely hilarious. See? It's normal because more women are college educated. When it was more men, you were complaining about it. Also, it's hilarious you're talking about medical schools when we have here on the back burner, which we might get to next week, citing severe math deficits, UC faculty demand return to set tests for STEM applicants. I'm not sure if healthcare counts as STEM, but it's funny. It's funny. The more diverse the students in college, the worse things are. I wonder why. The pipeline is female, the growth sectors are female, and the jobs are most protected from AI displacement. Caregiving, healthcare, in-person services are female. Nobody talking here about plumbing or electricians and whatnot. Cool. High demand for those jobs still. Jobs most exposed to AI are disproportionately held by men. More strikingly or ignored is as women move into the workforce and up the corporate ladder, they create jobs for women, including daycare, pet care, and in-home services. Won't this be bad? Why only for women? Well, it's women, so it's fine. That's usually the same excuse they use. Educational programs. This is not even mentioning the amount of government help these people get. Because it happens. I have seen it. It's still happening. If you're a guy, I'm sorry, you're just screwed. Get into labor school. You might not be rich, but you will have a job. Yeah, depends on where you live, I guess, but plumbing and electricians, high demand still. So if you're into that, that's not a horrible idea. They're not gonna be taken by AI, that's the least I can say. Economist Richard Reeves, a American scholar who delved into the economic data behind the male loneliness epidemic in the book Of Boys and Men, has argued the same cultural efforts that move women into STEM need to be applied in reverse. Steer men toward healthcare, education, and psychology. Why don't you shut up and let people work in what they want to work? Maybe we need more men being nurses. Maybe men don't want to be nurses. How about that? Because women didn't want to be engineers anyway. Okay, I being in the tech side all of my education life, there are no women. Oh geez, in a class of 24, 3 women. 3 whole women? Wow! That's a baseball! No. No, women are just not interested in STEM, and that's fine. The thing is, you're trying to force people into jobs they don't want. And even if you actually manage to get them into those jobs, they're gonna hate them. I don't wanna be a nurse. I don't wanna be near sick people. I don't wanna be near old people. I'm a hermit. I wanna be in a cave, doing some tiki-takis with the machines. If this was 1500 years ago, I would be still in a cave, probably making weapons, trying to make the best weapon ever. Why? Well, why not? Just because I can, maybe, potentially? I know that's more physical, but still. I don't think I will be the tribe shaman or anything like that. Though it could be cool. Imagine the power, that's a different tangent, who cares? So far, there's little sign of that happening. The educational programs within the growth sectors are, if anything, becoming more female over time. But you will never say this is actually a problem. As reported, the trained labor force participation gap shows no participation bounds, no cyclical correction, no historical parallel to prior reversals. It's more like a one-way door. If you look at the overall downward trend, she said, it's just being a downward trajectory. The stay-at-home boyfriend is no longer just a TikTok trend. It's a Federal Reserve data point. And the one pain in his rant is, increasingly, the American economy. What an absolute disaster. What an absolute disaster. Women in general don't want to be the breadwinners. And that shows. Because they still are trying to date up. The problem is, you have changed society so much that women are outperforming the men. So, both the men and the women are screwed beyond recognition. Not trying to be alarmist or anything like that, but these people have been destroying modern society. And now they finally managed to do it? Are they gonna complain too? Spare me your useless dribble. I'm not gonna send you back to the kitchen, but I'm gonna send you back to school. Because this ESL is unacceptable.